What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Over the weekend, I took a look at that Chromecast Ultra, if you missed it, where I checked temperatures for Stadia because there were so many reports about overheating. I was curious if it was even something that could be fixed by sticking heat sinks to it. Yeah, it was a fun video to do, so if you missed that one, you should check it out. And then, of course, the Spawncast Saturday night where we talked about the Game Awards. Today, though, we have a bunch of stuff to go over. Specifically, CD Projekt Red is in a couple of the stories since they did put out a Witcher 3 port on the Switch, and it seems like that did fairly well for them. But then they also talked about the multiplayer aspect of Cyberpunk, specifically about monetization, which is odd coming from CD Projekt Red. And also, there is a new game out for the Super Nintendo, and it's a Mario game, and it is amazing for just a person to create this. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit the like button. It does help out, and get subscribed so you can stay up to date on the gaming news going on in the gaming world. We're going to start today with Half-Life Alyx. It is a game that was, of course, revealed last week, and it's looking pretty good. It looks like the next big game for VR, a game that VR really needs, and for everyone looking for more information, wanting to hear more about it, it looks like the Game Awards will have that, as Jeff Keighley did tweet this out here, saying, "Thanks to Valve for trusting me to share its story. I'm so happy to be back to writing after a 5-year hiatus to create and build the Game Awards. Stay tuned to the Game Awards on December 12th for more on Half-Life Alyx, and lots more to tell in 2020. Half-Life Alyx, of course, is coming next year in March. It's gonna be a full $60 unless you have a one of their Index headsets, Valve's Index, and in that case, it would just be apparently free. It's just like part of the package. Of course, the Index is like $1,000, so a $60 game being thrown in is something a lot of people would probably expect at that point. But I am very interested in Half-Life Alyx, which is funny because I don't get that interested in a lot of VR games. Especially not one that's been announced and I haven't played yet. Like, Astrobot was cool, I played it, and then I was hyped on it after that, same with Wipeout, but like, to hear a new Half-Life game from Valve is hype enough at that point. VR is tough, but I do think Valve will probably do some really cool stuff with VR, and this looks like that flagship game that VR needs. Oh, and out of nowhere, the Black Friday sale started. Like, they just started up all over the place. Best Buy started early. I think Walmart started putting some up. Amazon did. And one deal that I kept seeing pop up that was, I think, great if you don't have it, the Genesis Mini is like $50. Some places have it for like $45. So if you do not pick this up, I recommend grabbing it. I mean, at that price, it's hard not to. This is not one of the ones from At Games. Okay, I did a review on it here on the channel. Again, check that out. But it is great. It has a ton of games on, including Mega Man Wily Wars. And again, it was like $80. Comes with 2 controllers. I mean, 45 to 50 is a great deal. It's just one of the many deals that are pretty much popping up at this point that should be worth a look. Oh, and check this out. Kojima put out Death Stranding, right? And we all assume that it's going to be at the Game Awards, represented really well, but a lot of people are asking, well, if you're not going to do like downloadable content or anything else with Death Stranding, what's next? Is he going to go into movies? Maybe not. Well, he might still do movies, but that might not be in the immediate future, as Kojima tweeted this out here, saying, "As to make the scariest horror game, I'll watch the scary movies in order to awaken my horror soul." It's interesting because then he also mentions PT in that same tweet, but he's talking about making the scariest horror game, like as he's doing it or getting ready to do that. Is Kojima about to go do a horror game now that Death Stranding is done? Because that's what a lot of people really wanted to see from him after seeing PT kind of rise and then, crash and burn after Konami got a hold of it and wanted to pull the plug. But if you've played Death Stranding, it has some very tense moments with the BTs and even some of the bosses. Kojima definitely has kind of a horror mind going right now. I think a horror game from Kojima would be very well received. Death Stranding, of course, was controversial with a lot of people, but because horror games are supposed to be kind of slower type games, methodical, kind of psychotic for some games like Silent Hill, for example, or PT, that is something I think Kojima could pull off with his creativity, and that's what a lot of us want to see. So I hope he's really thinking about it. The other question is who's going to fund this exactly? Can Kojima do it with his Kojima Production Studio? Or does he need another console manufacturer like a Microsoft, a Sony, and Nintendo did Deadly Premonition, so I guess you never know, Deadly Premonition 2. But would he need someone out there to help him? Maybe, but we'll keep an eye on this because a horror game from Kojima is definitely compelling. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with Witcher 3 on the Switch. Of course, the port came out pretty recently, a month or two ago, and it is, it's been interesting to see the reception on it. I think it's fascinating for a lot of people to see a game of that size become a portable game, right? Like it doesn't need to be plugged into the wall, it doesn't need to be on TV, it's a handheld game at that point. Witcher 3 is a very large game, very, very large. So it was interesting to see that, and it was interesting to see it all in one cartridge. So how would it have done then for CD Projekt Red? I mean, it's an older game that got ported, right? It was a game that released back in like 2016, 3 years later. Well, according to them, it helped spike their revenue. This was actually put on the press release, as you can see here, saying our third quarter revenues were over 38% higher than during the corresponding period in 2018. This is due, among others, to increased sales of The Witcher 3, first shipments of the game's Nintendo Switch edition, and an increase in revenues posted by GOG.com. Yes, the Witcher 3 port for the Switch seemed to have sold well enough, along with a few other things they say, but they specifically named Witcher 3 on the Switch. Now, they hadn't really, I guess, released too much else around that time, right? So they're comparing now to last year's quarter, but it was still interesting to see that have that kind of an impact to push their revenues up 38%. A noticeable spike, again, along with GOG and a few other little things they said, but the biggest one they seemed to name drop was that Nintendo Switch version of Witcher 3. It makes you wonder if CD Projekt Red is going to keep a closer eye on the Switch going forward. They, of course, have, Gwent? That's a game I guess they could move over, and they could look into kind of the back catalog of Witcher games. Like, they could do Witcher 1, and Witcher 2 was on the 360, so I assume that's something they could do if they wanted to. My question there, though, is how many people want to go back and play Witcher 2 if The Witcher 3 is available to you on that same system? The only way I could see people maybe wanting to grab it is if it was like cheap enough. Let's say it came out and it was like $20 on the eShop, right? Yeah, you might see people grab it. Maybe the first one shows up and it's like $10. I think even if they thought about doing something with Cyberpunk, that is a ways off. They're still trying to get this thing out right now for current gen systems and PC. I don't think they even have it on their mind about trying to do anything like that with the Switch or even a next gen Switch. They're just trying to get this thing shipped at this point. But they did also mention something else, this time in an interview. We're going to move on to the next section with the Cyberpunk multiplayer. So during a conference call with investors, the president of CD Projekt Red made mention of the multiplayer aspect to Cyberpunk. Now, this was announced a bit ago, but it really hasn't been talked about too much. They haven't really elaborated on it, really at all. All we know right now is that the single player will launch first. That's what they're focusing on heavily right now, and that there will be some sort of multiplayer afterwards, it seems. Again, not super clear on what's going to happen with this, but he still wanted to talk to investors about this to give them, I guess, some peace of mind that they would get a lot out of the multiplayer. You're talking to investors, you want to at least assure them that they have a business plan for a multiplayer they're going to spend a bunch of time and money developing. Well, this is what the president said. When it comes to monetizing the multiplayer Cyberpunk, we now think it is far too early to reveal any details. The project is at an early stage of development, and we are constantly experimenting. After all, this is our first game multiplayer. We are exploring various possibilities, and so far it is not the time for precise determination directions, although it can be safely said that we will not compromise our own policy, contracts with players. Monetization will be intelligent. We will ensure that how always deliver valuable products in exchange for payment received. That is a quote that's been put around all over the place right now online. This happened last night. It was breaking everywhere. Here's the issue I have with what we're seeing right here, okay? That is being translated from Polish to English through Google Translate. That doesn't always go over that. I mean, you could tell I was trying to read things that didn't make sense. Obviously, a bot translated it. But I look at this, and they do mention monetization. And I think when you hear monetization, a lot of us go, yep, loot boxes, microtransactions, something, right? But the thing with CD Projekt Red, they are very against that. It seems they make fun of other companies for it. They always talk about how they don't want to do that. I think at this point, I'm going to wait and see on this. That's the big thing here. It is multiplayer, so keep that in mind. That means that it could be more of a live service aspect where they can add things, take things away. The last thing I really want to see, though, because we've seen so many companies fall from grace with like Bethesda, right? That was a big one very recently. I really don't want to see this happen to them, the CD Projekt Red kind of fall from grace, but they have to kind of they have to release it first and then give people a reason to all of a sudden, I guess, get annoyed with them when it comes to monetization practices. For all we know, the multiplayer could be a separate purchase. Like that, it could be just basically downloadable content. And a lot of people right now probably didn't even know it was coming with, there was going to be any type of multiplayer Cyberpunk game, because I saw on Twitter people were just confused immediately that there were talks about multiplayer. So again, I look at this and I say, okay, that's a translation from a bot. Monetization can mean a couple other things. We'll see. I'll also be curious if they decide to clarify this at all. They might in a press release, but I also think it's so early on for the multiplayer right now and they're focusing on the single player, they might not even know what they mean when they say monetization. They're probably still trying to work that out. Next up, let's talk about what I think looks like one of the best Super Nintendo homebrew games that I've ever seen. There's a little bit of a story behind it, but for the most part, Super Mario Land from the Game Boy was made for the Super Nintendo, and it looks really good. Like, it doesn't really necessarily even look like a fan project. There are some things where you go, oh, okay, yeah, I guess it's not even completed technically yet, or they were working with what they had on the Super Nintendo and was available to them. Check this thing out. This is done by a person who decided to create this, and according to them, this was through Nintendo Life, who managed to get some questions answered from who is right now the anonymous creator. They're anonymous, mostly because they don't want to get in trouble with Nintendo. We know Nintendo's policy with some of this stuff, right? A lot of cease and desists go out when these things happen, so they're playing it smart. I'll give them that. Don't tell people, don't give people your information, name, or any of that, because Nintendo will come and find you. But they said that this game was intended as a personal Christmas gift for my Nintendo-loving friends to commemorate the 30th anniversary of Super Mario Land. Super Mario Land was released back in 1989 on the Game Boy, and this is amazing. It is not a ROM hack. That was something that a lot of people were thinking, oh, maybe they played off of a Super Nintendo game. Maybe they used like Super Mario All-Stars or something to create it. No, this is like straight up, they just created it. Just a homebrew they created, according to them, from assembly straight up, and they're trying to mirror as close as they can things like the weird physics in the game, the visual style that they've kind of upgraded a bit. It's very, very cool, and they didn't release it necessarily, but it seemed to get out there. Okay, so it was on sites that you could download it from. It kind of leaked out. There was no official release for it that I saw, but it is out there, and technically, yeah, I guess you could download it and try it out yourself, and I'll see if it actually works on a Super Nintendo. That'd be kind of fun. I think I saw a few people talking about it working on hardware, but I haven't been able to see that myself. Either way, what a cool idea, and that is just quite a bit of work to do for a Christmas present, but hey, 30th anniversary, I guess you go all out. And in our last bit of news, talk a little bit about xCloud. It is an odd story. I'm going to say that now because this isn't really something I guess I would necessarily expect Microsoft to do, but we kind of know what their competition is right now and what they want to participate in necessarily as their competition, which, I mean, is Google, it's Stadia, it's the streaming service for games, right? They are definitely striking deals with Nintendo, we're seeing, and they're striking deals with Sony, and I think a lot of that has to do with them not seeing them as competitors like they do Google and Amazon, because Google and Amazon are the ones that have the servers that can compete with Microsoft. Nintendo and Sony do not. So what about having exclusive games for xCloud? Because that is something that was discussed at XO19. Now, Survivor reports that during a roundtable at XO19, Microsoft's Kareem Chowdhury said that the company is having discussions, we'll just say discussions, with first and third party developers, but they said that the talks are still in early stages and it takes quite a while. They mentioned 18 months to 2 years for anything to actually materialize from start to finish for exclusive games in xCloud, and it is interesting, right? Because Microsoft doesn't necessarily push for exclusives really anymore for the Xbox brand. It's on the Xbox, it's on PC, sometimes it's on the Switch even, and hey, other times Minecraft, it's everywhere. It's on the PlayStation 4, it's on cell phones. They don't really seem to see that as a necessity, but if they are serious about, according to them, reaching 2 billion gamers through xCloud, as in people that can walk to a computer, open a browser, hit a button, and then the game just launches, yes, through streaming, that might be where their focus is for exclusives, and it's very, very strange to hear that. But I do also think that they'll probably be accessible to the Xbox, unless maybe the ability that Google Stadia was referring to with all the servers working together. Maybe then you have a reason to have an exclusive because literally the box in your living room cannot do it. It's interesting to hear about. I don't know if that will actually materialize or if they're just kind of kicking around ideas right now. But if xCloud takes off the way they're hoping it will, I could see a lot of their resources and focus actually shift to xCloud more so than Xbox. Now, I think Xbox will still be a big component, obviously, of their whole business, but xCloud could become even or maybe a little higher than their emphasis there, because at the end of the day, Microsoft is a service-based company. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Spaghetti Gamer saying, $60 is too much for a game like Job Simulator or a fleshed out tech demo, but a 15-hour VR game I think is worth $60. And I would agree. I also think because it's Half-Life, right? Like people said, like Blood and Truth was fairly long, had a fun gameplay, story and everything, but it wasn't Half-Life, right? Half-Life is like, okay, yeah, I gotta see what Valve's doing with this game. Now, I think it was also a bit of a shock to hear that Valve was gonna do a whole new Half-Life game again, and that was exciting enough to people, but VR badly needs this game because a lot of people look at VR projects as tech demos, as you're referring to here, and when that happens, people then view VR games overall as like $20, quick experiences. I like the idea of something this large and this immersive happening and putting the Half-Life name on it, and yeah, it's a $60 game, but it's a full experience. That's kind of what I would like VR to go towards, but there is also a lot of risk there for these companies to do that. Valve has a vested interest with their index trying to push that, so it at least makes sense for them to invest that kind of money and create this game. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit the like button, really helps us out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether it's that Super Nintendo Mario Land game. What do you think about that? I think it's really neat. It's cool to build it in assembly from like the ground up using, of course, graphics and I guess other things they had, but it's very, very neat to see that. And then also, what about CD Projekt Red? One, finding success on the Switch. Do you think they'll focus more on the Switch as well, bring that in a bit more? And what about monetization strategies with Cyberpunk's multiplayer? Do you think that should set off some alarm bells, or should we wait and see what CD Projekt Red has in mind? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.